I survived in this Nairobi in ways I don't myself understand. And it pulled me into depths of misery. That's below depression.
Yeah.
That you cannot, in the normal world, fathom. But I think what helped me is that acceptance that I'm no one, I'm nothing. Sometimes life crashes so hard and throws you in the wood. You shout so hard, but no one hears your voice. Those who hear it liken it to howling of wolves. Those who recognize it ignore it to avoid its haunt. You reach out for help, but they ignore you like plague. The people you call friends cover their ears in their palms.
Wow.
Dusk falls on life and there's light no more.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Noble, and we are continuing with the second part of my conversation with Ouma Don Collins. He said, if I don't say Ouma fast, then that is not him. So, my friend Ouma, this is your book.
Yes.
Morning Shall Come.
Yes.
What motivated writing this book?
That's a difficult question to answer when it comes to poetry.
Yes.
Because for poetry, we are looking at the different poems that are there.
Yeah.
If you asked me what motivated me to write this particular poem, I could answer that.
Yeah.
But a book, I decided to, get my work out. It was a work of art.
Yes.
And art has to be expressed.
Yes.
So what then motivated me to write this book is to get my work out.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
If I may put it that way.
That one is a very brilliant way of answering. Now, somebody said, poem that does not have pain is not poetry, or does not qualify. I mean, it's not poem. It's not a poem enough. You agree?
I agree in principle.
Okay.
In principle, because not all poems are about pain. Some are about happiness, but some are about this or that. The principle is that there's something behind it.
Yeah.
That inspire that moment for that creation to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
So
poets
that's
happy?
what I'll agree with.
Are poets happy people? Are poets, normal sort of people?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, poets are not happy people.
Yes.
Because these are people who are disadvantaged to have a different worldview.
What do you mean disadvantage?
And I come into that,
Yeah.
a different worldview and a deeper sense of introspection
Yeah.
that sometimes makes them weep about this world that we live in and everything else that is within it. You see, because we see things, then we question them.
Yeah.
Why not happening this other way? You see, and we want to find logic behind everything then that is happening. And then, just as is recorded by Solomon, that sometimes is unwise to be so wise, because then you live a very unhappy life. And most poets are deeply introspective people. So they live mostly unhappy lives.
Because they question.
Unfortunately,
things.
yes.
So poets are not happy people.
Generally, they're not.
And mostly poetry is not. Mostly poetry has pain.
Yes.
Okay. What is the disadvantage?
The disadvantage about that is that then poets want to live in an ideal world that is not there. It can never be ideal. It's an unfair world in many ways.
Yeah.
You see? And in questioning things and being deeply introspective about things. Sometimes poets lose touch with the realities of life.
Yeah.
And then when that disalignment happens, they isolate. Try to find that ideal world that they're envisioning or they have in their minds. And then they lose touch with reality sometimes.
Does this depress them?
And getting back sometimes from that becomes a struggle.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that in the larger context of artists, creators
Yeah.
of art, painters,
Yeah.
poets,
Yeah.
right? In a general term, in a general view, when the world is so disconnected from the real world that is,
Yeah.
and they don't belong anymore, sadly, most of them, they snap and they don't come back. Some of them take their own lives. Some of them isolate so much that that kills them.
Yeah.
Nietzsche wept.
You know Club 27?
Club 27.
There's academic writing, actually a scientific study of poets who die at 27 years.
Okay.
You can go all the way to some artists like Kurt Cobain, for example. You saw the kind of pieces he was writing, speaking his pain and everything. Then they normally, by design, I don't know which design, spiritual, but some of them actually take their lives at 27 years.
Okay, I'm hearing about that for the first time.
Good.
But in the
I'm
agony...
happy that I've taught you something new today, which you need to go and really research on. Yeah, there's something called Club 27.
I'm going to search about that. But that's the agony of artists, of painters, of poets.
Yeah.
Right? And I came to realize this, that when we don't take a step back from that, we perish. We die.
Do you take a step back?
I did take steps back.
Okay.
And I'm happy I realized that
You're a happy
so early.
poet.
Before that, I'm happy I realized that way early and pulled myself out of that world because it would have destroyed me. Right? And in realizing that, and I know the art of poetry is something also that is nurtured before it's economically viable.
Yeah.
So I started a society of poets in Nairobi called Nairobi Poets Meet.
Yeah.
So we used to have sessions at Alliance Française here in Nairobi, bring together writers.
Share your pains.
To share our writings and, you know, not the pains, to share our writings, to have conversation around the art, you know, to support one another within the framework of poetry and personally. Because these guys, sometimes if they don't get a place to vent, then they explode.
Yes.
And we lose many of them young.
And they join Club 27.
And they joined Club 27. But again, it was, in my view, I was looking at how do we make poetry economically viable. And especially writers. You know, there are two kinds of poets. There are the performing artists, then there are the writers. So most of those who write cannot perform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Personally, okay, we get there to talk about me and my poetry journey. Most of the things you've been talking about.
Yeah.
So
most of them, the performers had space. Spaces actually to perform, but most writers didn't have really that space. And if you don't have that, you can go mad because you think you're the only one tormented by such ideas. But if you get into a group where, okay, it's not only I who is suffering this, we can share the pain and, you know, belong, and that can, you know, contain things a bit.
Back to the question, are you a happy poet?
That's a hard question.
All right.
Let me ponder about it.
I have one of my favorite pieces in your book. Of course, you disclaim that we should read one a day. Or,
doctor's prescription.
I followed. I followed that rule for the entire 1 year I've had this book. I can tell, I think I've not read everything, but I've had those moments. So I don't know if you remember this poem, I Want Heaven.
I Want Heaven.
Heaven
is elusive.
Yes. They say they say its way is narrow. I have a Range Rover. I need to tag it along. Shall I need to redo its path, or shall I walk like the slaves? It goes deep, deep. This second last stanza. I love my daughter. She hates bees. She can't stand them. In the land of milk and honey, shall I leave her behind? What is happening? What's happening?
But that's the beauty of poetry.
Yes.
That we get it out. Then we let the readers interpret it in their own ways. Right? Painters, as much, they paint. How you interpret that painting is entirely up to you.
Yeah.
And from experience, people interpret art based on what's happening within them at that particular moment. And when that changes, they again see it very differently.
So Bats has I've forgotten the other name, but I know she's called Bats. He's called Bats. He had a theory around writing about the text, subtext, and the intertext. So I just want to go about text and subtext. That there's a text, what you've done, what you call. Actually, the theory is called death of the author. That once you write a text, you are dead. So your interpretation of it does not count.
Yes.
It's gonna be in the world of the consumers.
Of the consumers.
Yes. Guys who are gonna consume this.
Yeah.
This text, yes. Why you wrote it. But again, now when I read it, I'm going to construct a subtext from it.
Yeah.
I know I've written very suicidal pieces that to me sometimes, yes, I am thinking about what would it be like if, okay, like imagine there's no heaven, there's no hell. Okay, what would it be like if we just relieved of all the struggles of life and just take the permanent limbo, go to the unending limbo and just rest there. So those ideas have come to my mind. But one thing that I stand with for sure, in as much as we have text and the subtext, you can never separate art from the artist.
True.
And I've listened to, Kurt Cobain, for example, the Nirvana band. The songs that Kurt Cobain himself wrote. When I read now the story of Kurt Cobain, I understood every other song he wrote and what was going on in his life. But that was after he shot himself. That is when people were waking up and saying. So when I read, I want heaven, and I want heaven. And this beat, actually, I could relate with these moments I've had. So that's why I was asking you, what was happening? I love my daughter. She hates bees.
Now
she can't stand them. Shall I leave her behind?
Shall I leave her behind?
Yeah.
So talking of text and subtext, if the author gives, let me scratch author. If the poet gives the text, the injustice he or she will have done is to rob the reader of their own interpretation.
Yes. That's powerful.
You see?
That's tweetable. I don't know why Elon Musk changed Twitter to X. Now, how do you say that's Xable?
You see? So if it was meant to be of value to them, then that value is destroyed.
Yeah.
You see?
So the beauty of art is that we leave it for the
interpretation
of the consumers, of the audience.
Yes.
Wow.
But in the same note of a text, maybe I'll tell you the depths of this book.
Yeah.
Because everything else piles up to it.
Yeah.
Just some sugar there, some lemon there, some pepper, a little bit here and there.
But it's accumulation of experiences that are almost inspired.
It's centered on Morning Shall Come.
You're tired of the world where you're seeing things and whatever is happening, and you're hoping there's a dawn coming.
Yes. In this context, let me read the poem.
Okay.
Then I give you the context in the larger sense. Morning Shall Come is page. This should be page 123.
Okay.
And I'll give you the context. It's here, 123. Yes. Allow me to read it.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sometimes life crashes so hard and throws you in the wood. You shout so hard, but no one hears your voice. Those who hear it liken it to howling of wolves. Those who recognize it ignore it to avoid its haunt. You reach out for help, but they ignore you like plague. The people you call friends cover their ears in their palms. Dusk falls on life and there is light no more. The only flickers are from stars up above. You try to push forward, but hit tree trunks instead. Every step forward becomes evidence of miles ahead. You look for yourself, but only find space. All you have is a feeling of your being. The nights turn darker and every sound even scarier. You become withdrawn and trust by yourself, but yourself. Darkness becomes colder and winds blow lower. Shiver and shaky breath make a loud conversation. Your mind is racing, but your knees are motionless. Your hands are frozen and only to hope you can hold. When you are curled on that earth and holding on to your heart, hold on to this too and keep it in mind. Morning shall come and the sun will shine.
Wow. That was I read this in a matatu. Yeah. And I wanted to go back and just read it.
Andreas Otieno, this was the darkest moment of my life.
All right.
I wrote this book largely out of my own personal story, my own personal experience. Baldwin says that the artist, the poet, must tell his story to the end. Vomit it out or vanquish. So I'm obliged to tell the story one day of what happened, that I yearned for morning to come because the night was so dark. I wonder today how I survived. So what you see today is just a build-back of dust that remained out of my existence, that was once so graceful and so great.
What happened?
It was crazy.
What happened?
It was crazy. And I hope to tell that story end to end when I'll be relaunching this book.
All right.
When time comes.
And I like that we've had this conversation today.
Yeah.
And we can take the bite and share on the launch.
It was a story of betrayal. I mentioned to you earlier that I've spent a larger part of my adult life in politics as a political planner.
Yeah.
And then betrayal happened. And everything that we hoped for was lost in that betrayal by a very close friend. Yeah. And we had done amazing work and great things. And then out of nowhere, you find yourself left hanging.
Yeah.
You have no top, you have no bottom, and you cannot hold anywhere.
You're searching for yourself, but only space exists. The only thing you find is a space.
Yeah. So, left hanging, the depth was so far.
Yeah.
And I hit it with a third. And in that memory, I remember I wrote the poem Not I Want Heaven. Ataraxia. I know poems speak to different people in different situations.
Yes.
But I remember that bit. I remembered it and I wrote ataraxia. Ataraxia goes when there was no more depth to fall from. She wept again, drained her tears on earth, fixed her broken wing, nursed painful cuts.
Yeah.
Thoughts of the beauty of her misery. She smiled. Then she flew even higher into the scary blue sky, because that's what she does. She flies. So she flew.
This is a poet trying to explain the meaning of another poem of a poem with another poem.
Yes.
Now,
Andre, I survived in this Nairobi in ways I don't myself understand. And it pulled me into depths of misery. That's below depression.
yeah.
That you cannot, in the normal world, fathom. But I think what helped me is that acceptance that I'm no one, I'm nothing. It got to that level. And agreed and accepted that Andre, I'm nothing. That is how far deep I went.
Wow.
Then that realization, that acceptance is what helped me build back. With the same concept, I'm nothing.
Wow.
If I engage with you today, I know I'm nothing. All these things are temporary. And I had stuff. I was somebody. I turned to nothing. Nothing. I had nothing on my name. It was that bad.
Wow. I'm trying to really juggle ideas, but I know this story has to be told in the launch.
It has to be told
So
in
if
life.
you want to listen to this story, you have to come to the relaunch of Morning Shall Come. Now,
Yeah.
I'm a poet, and before this show, I think we were talking. You're wondering why I haven't published. Of course,
Yeah.
I've not. I don't know why I have not published. Actually, I can say finances, but I've done pieces in my lowest moments. I've done pieces in my good moments. I've had moments and I've locked myself in the room, switched off my phone, and just stay there. And I found myself writing. I've been in the middle of cooking, and I stop, switch off everything, go back to my desk and scribble something. It just comes.
Yeah.
The gods just whispers in your ears. It's about time to write about this. Or you see, the funniest I've ever done was I saw a beggar in the streets, and I was broke, man. I was gonna walk home from the CBD, and I'm seeing a beggar like stretching his arms
Hands to you. Yeah.
like blocking the pedestrian's path. And then I stood and looked at the guy and passed, but I had to stand and took my phone and messaged myself the poem. It just came like, we are two people, just poor, just broke, just hungry.
But in different ways.
But in different ways. You look at me and you think, I am capable of helping you. And then it hit my mind that the parts of the city where the rich people actually are, you hardly find beggars there. Because beggars are aware that it's the poor people that actually give.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And that concept came immediately. That if I go to, for example, where Nakumat lifestyle used to be, you don't find beggars those sides.
No, you won't.
But where there are routes to the Eastlandos, that's where you find so many beggars. You know, you go to the Ngara footbridge, you find so many beggars there. So, what happens? Like, do we? I've always felt poetry is very spiritual. I've just never like based it on very strong grounding. But I've had moments when somebody reaches me like, yo, Dre, I'm having a bad day, or my girlfriend is having a bad day, can you do me a poem? And like, I can't write.
You can't. Yeah, it's true. You can't.
So how do you write? Where did you find yourself to get all these pieces? I know it might have taken so many years. I've written since 2006 to date. I still keep writing. I've shared my poetry online. Almost everything is online there. But do you find yourself in those spiritual moments?
Yes.
Waking up in the middle of the night?
I'll actually call them spiritual moments. And there's a big difference between spirituality and religion. So two different things. When inspiration comes to write, it's like a burden to a poet.
Yeah. Yes.
That if they don't unload,
almost immediately,
Yes.
it's lost.
it's lost.
Yes.
And if it's lost, it's going to hit you so hard, it will crush you.
Yeah.
There's pain in losing something that has been delivered to you. I don't know from where.
But it was.
If the inspiration comes, then you don't have it.
Yes.
You don't pen it down.
Yeah.
It hurts you in a way or another.
Yeah.
And the torment of not having it down might stay with you for a very long time. And you'll keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
So I think it is spiritual.
Don't think it is, because I've
think it is,
failed
because
to explain it.
Some pieces I've written in here.
Yeah.
Sometimes I read them and I wonder, am I the one who wrote this? You don't believe actually you're the one who wrote this.
Yeah.
Because you can hardly go back to that space in mind, in thoughts, in nature, where that exactly came and how the form in which it came.
Yeah.
But you can remember circumstances around it, but not in the exact.
Yeah. Like every piece of poem, you can always tell what was happening.
Yes. You see?
That's where I was very
and
particular.
especially when you're writing
heaven.
from an authentic self. There's sometimes you can write, for commercial purposes, which I don't do.
I also don't do.
Poems,
Yes,
like this,
I don't do that.
I hardly do
you
that.
can't reach me and tell me my daughter is having a birthday. Can you do me a
Yes,
poem?
it will
I
be
can't
so
do that.
difficult.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
But and they're so random.
Yes.
They just come. But during that time, when I was in the ditch, it so happened that the introspection was so deep. I would have the flashes almost every time, and I would pen them down and I would write them.
So poets write from a broken point. Mostly.
Mostly.
Poets are broken people.
Mostly.
Poets are broken people.
Mostly.
Have you ever met a poet without a past that is broken?
Rarely.
Great.
And I think it comes back to the question you asked initially about the nature of poets.
Yeah.
And I mentioned about the struggles that they have in the existence in the existing form of the world that is different from their worldview. And the smallest of things. That then they question that, and then they remain with the questions, and they can't answer them, and they have to ask the world if this is good or bad, and it's a poem.
I think I know one happy poet. I may not mention her. Yeah, it just hit my mind. She seems happy. Maybe I don't know her story yet, but she writes very happy poetry for love and
I have written very...
No, I mean, it's okay. I've also written when I graduated.
But you interrogate these people.
Yeah. When I graduated,
Yeah.
when I sat in the arena, I did a poem to my grandmama because she believed, and she one day told me, we had a family that was rich, and then she compared us with that family and said, do you know,
competition.
do you know you beat this boy in school academically? So can you imagine the only thing that can make you equal to him is the fact that you can excel, whether you be the best or not, but have access to it. You know something. I would train you in so many things, but I don't have the means. This is the cheapest I can have. And that was so deep for my grandmother. You see the way they say education is an equalizer.
Yeah,
it's the same concept, only that she's explaining it from her own experience, you know?
Yeah.
That my grandma was not a believer in being the top every time. She just wanted you to go at it and be excellent.
She must have been a poet.
She used to sing
Only maybe
the traditional dances, the dodo dances. She's a dodo dancer and singer.
at that moment,
Yeah.
when you're looking at that,
Yeah.
and I think what you might have struggled with in the past
Yeah.
was the nature of people to put competition in things
Yes.
in a way that is illogical. And I found myself some while back just thinking about it, you know,
Yeah.
in deep introspection about. I think I penned up. Let me read. I think I penned a poem
Which one?
about that. The first one.
All right.
The first one.
Yeah.
It's called soliloquy. And I'll speak briefly
Yeah,
about
yeah.
competition. Right?
Yeah.
And soliloquy goes, who are we
Yeah.
but victims of existence? Consequences of pious choices. Sometimes consequences of mere luck,
Let's dive into it.
taking form by nature of our struggles, sinking in the depths of our own pride, seeking more than you can never finish, yearning for more than you can ever achieve. Limitations defining our wisdom,
Yeah.
splendor yet our folly. Being and being not human as perception, judged harshly through lenses of self-interest. Competition at the core of our insanity, pulling fear from dark corners of imagination. If we are more than this, won't we be gods? Never to taste death, pain, nor the wrath of time. Still, won't it be a small heaven down here if only you valued me first as a human
Yeah.
and I, you?
Wow.
You see? So what is this that you're competing? It's just madness, madness, madness.
We are comparing with others.
We get just a
And
little
others
bit
are
more
sharing
than others, and now we
their
want to
highlight
worship.
reels,
I mean,
their best moments.
but if we try this earth just as humans, appreciating one another, loving just being kind to one another.
Yeah.
Leave alone anything else, just be kind to the other person as a human being.
Wow.
It won't be a lovely heaven. Maybe a lovely world, won't it?
Hey.
To be a lovely world.
John Lennon had a song,
Uh-huh.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine there's no heaven.
Yeah.
You know, just, I mean, it's a deep song.
It's a deep song.
Yeah. So this is Morning Shall Come, tickles the heart, provokes the mind, uplifts the soul. Subtle poetry.
Yeah.
Where do we find this book?
This book is online. If you want physical copies, you can go to either Nuria.
Nuria, yeah.
Nuria is stocking this.
Yeah.
Naivas is also stocking this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If
You're
you
balling
use-
with big guys. Naivas is part of the guys who stock this book. That's huge.
Yeah. If you want to get it through your a soft copy version
Yeah.
of it, then it's also available on
On soft copy.
what do you call this?
Ebook.
The ebook version.
Yeah.
On Kindle though,
Yeah. Okay.
through Amazon. Then you can also buy it through Amazon. Then they can deliver.
All right.
Yeah. But when you're here, come to Kenya, just
Hala.
know it.
Holla the
you
dawn.
holla the dawn.
Wow. I'll be reviewing this book soon.
Please do.
Once I finish,
Please do.
I follow the instructions.
Uh-huh.
You shouldn't rush it. Yeah.
One
Take one at a time. Sometimes I take one in a week or one in 3 weeks. That is it. So I really appreciate what you do.
Thanks a
And
lot.
the works and like, you know, the Pan-African conversations. Having to write poems, you know, you're a poet.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation I know we would have had like over and over or for a long time. But, you know, time is also limited.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for coming here and being part of the Noble Africa show.
No, I appreciate you a great deal for having me.
So what would be your last word?
My last word
Yeah,
would
be
be
deep to it, like a poet, like a Pan-African poet. Yeah, brief and deep.
I'll try to be brief. It will be subjective.
Okay.
But it's possible for everyone to, you know, interact with the other in just slightly kinder way.
Yeah.
We could be kind with that. It's the only language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see.
Yeah.
So if only we could engage with people, handle people just a little bit kinder way,
Yeah.
this world will be a better place. and it calls upon each of us. Can we evaluate how kind we are to the other day by day?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the Don, Ouma Don Collins.
Yeah.
We were talking about Morning Shall Come, and he has mentioned where we can find the book, very deep poetry. And as he says in the cover, it tickles the heart, provokes the mind, and uplifts the soul. Thank you for always listening and watching. Subscribe, like, share to the Click Pictures. I always appreciate the good work that we do to come up with this. And until we meet next time, see ya.